The other thing I wanted to ask you is in regards to that Hollywood Reporter article. That one broke my heart, man. Because towards the very end, he talks about Frank Herbert. And he said, George, I'm quoting George here, he said, he didn't like Dune anymore, and he didn't want to write any more Dune books, Martin says. But he felt locked in by the success of Dune, so he kept writing. The person interviewing him says, do you relate to how Herbert felt? So George says, I'm not necessarily tired of the world of Ice and Fire, he says. I love the world and the world building. But yes, I do. And I feel like this kind of calls back to something you and I discussed a while back. George likes to play in this world, but he doesn't want to necessarily end it.
Just to be careful, this is just like my opinion. This is not, George has not confided to me. There's always these ideas, these notions that somehow there is some future where Linda and I are ghostwriting these books. I've already seen people claim that we ghostwrote Fire and Blood. We did not write Fire and Blood. That we, even ridiculous claims that we wrote parts of Dance of Dragons. Like, it's just nonsense from people.
My theory is that George actually didn't write A Song of Ice and Fire. He found them in a stone box outside his house in Manchester, New York.
In Manchester, New York?
That's where Joseph Smith found the...
Oh, was it in New York? I thought it was out in Utah, but he found it. All right. No, that's great.
I'm sorry. I love that idea. Or that he's stuck because his ghostwriter retired or passed away. So he can't... I love those. Sorry.
No, no, absolutely. It's obviously been a huge challenge for him. This was when he imagined writing the series. He did not think he would be writing it this many years, or working on it this many years. He did not think it would become as big as it did, and it's brought him many wonderful things. It's done many great things. I mean, he's got many books on the New York Times #1 bestseller lists. Many books in general on the bestseller list. It's TV shows, all this acclaim, all these opportunities to help people, not just acquaintances, but future writers, future creators, or scholarships and programs, all these wonderful things he's done. But it has grown so big and so complicated that, and as I said, I still think he is very much dedicated to trying to get it done in 7 books. It might be Book 6 might be in 2 volumes, so there will be Book 6, Volume 1 and Volume. I mean, Lord of the Rings is technically 1 book in 3 volumes. So
Book 6 might be Winds of Winter might be in 2 volumes. Where are you getting this from? Is this just your opinion?
I think George himself made some remark by it. Like, even if it had to be 2 massive books, it would be. I think he basically implied that it would be a 2-volume book and not multiple volumes.
Okay.
But he still wants to finish it with it. But that the idea is here is it's not literally Book 6. It's like he would see it as all as one novel. It's just too big to print as 1 volume. Now, I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I'm just saying, what I am saying is I still think he very much sees it as a 7-part series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and he's trying his damnedest to keep it there. And I think that is, he causes huge headaches. Because it's very tough to see how to do it. And I think he's been struggling with that. And whether he should have just given up on it, if he has, I have no idea. I don't talk to him about these things. I think the writing is very personal to him, and I think it's also, if he confides in anybody, it's the writers he has worked with for many years who are in his circle, who are in his same profession. We are not authors in the same way that George is. We have no, and just to try to say it again, because every once in a while I have to come out and say it. We are not George's literary executors. We are not going to be his ghostwriters. We are not Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. We are not involved in if George wanted someone else to write the series and got that person to, and that person said, hey, would you guys help me like you helped George? Yes, of course we would help that person. If George passed away and somehow things got in control of somebody like who shouldn't have control of it, and they were hiring people and they wanted us to help, and we knew that George had not wanted that, but through legal machinations it fell into somebody else, we would say no, because there's no greater defender of what George is doing and his desire to do things the way he wants them done than us, and so we have no interest. We're not in the picture for the future of the series. We're fans who have had a chance, and maybe we'll be working on something else with him in the future. But it will not be a Song of Ice and Fire directly. It will not be one of those novels. That's for George and anyone he chooses as a successor, if he ever does so, which he may not. And then, hey, we're all shit out of luck. But we enjoyed the ride up to that point. I don't know, but I am hopeful that he will get it done. And I think it's a little bit morbid to kind of constantly think about it, but I understand it's realistic as well. One has to think about it, and when he says things like that, you can tell how much it weighs on him. But I remember when he's repeatedly talked about the series in the past that this is his magnum opus. Like, he wants to get it done right. He doesn't want to be a person who doesn't complete that story. The story doesn't mean the world is done. The story is just a story. It's a slice of that universe. He has 1,000 other stories he could write about that world after Song of Ice and Fire is done, and I think may he live 100 years more to see them all done. But I think, yeah, he's in a tough spot with it, and
well,
it must.
I have to cut in here,
yeah.
because it seems like do people throw this at you often, that you're his ghostwriter, or that you've done more?
That one is a rare one. I've seen that one, but more common. I've seen people kind of, oh well, Elio and Linda will continue it, or Elio and Linda will there is no discussion with us doing anything, and we're not authors, we're not writers, we're not novelists. George, it would be malpractice of anyone to think that they could just shove this at us. Like, we would absolutely, if Random House got permission to hire somebody and they came to us, we who dropped you on your head? Like, that's not us. We are nerds who know the lore, and we will help with the lore if you guys want, like the details, like the continuity, like we've helped George. But find somebody who can actually write a novel well. There's plenty of them out there.
Well, on stream a while ago, someone brought up the idea that if George wasn't going to finish, then who would you put on this Avengers style team to get it done? And I said I would put you on there. I wouldn't put any random YouTuber on there, not even myself. I would put you on there along with other people that George has worked with, not necessarily as a writer, but definitely on the team nonetheless, because in this hypothetical, if they're going to get it done, then they need everyone that George has ever worked with and knows the series fairly well. So I hope you take that as a compliment and not as an insult.
I accept that. That's absolutely perfectly reasonable. I don't even necessarily think they need us. We have, thanks to our wiki and thanks to all the stuff that fans have put out there, and if a writer who was serious about it read all the stuff and consulted, they could learn the lore just as well as anyone else, I would imagine.
True.
But we're always there to we are people may not believe this, but we've always been extremely open to helping anyone who works on licensed stuff for George. We have helped HBO. Even after I stopped watching the show, I was helping them with stuff because George's name is on it, and we want it to be as good as it can be. Like, whatever we're doing, if they're asking us something about some detail, we'll answer that for them. Because why would we not do so? Even if George has, even if House of the Dragons hasn't gone the way George has entirely wanted, as he posted, if they asked me for something, I would probably help just because, George's name is still on it. So, yeah.
Well, the Hollywood Reporter article from 2 months ago, he said some crazy things here, specifically that he planned to kill off Sansa in the next 2 books. That came out of nowhere.
Well, out of nowhere? I mean, she lost her wolf. I mean, it's literally said in the novels. It's a point that is made. So I've always assumed that is a possible course that he was taking. Yeah.
So you're telling me that's a marker that someone is going to, at least for the Starks.
Obviously not that somebody is going to, but that someone. There's a possibility that George is thinking about it in that way, that it might make sense for her. So I think it's a very interesting interview. I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, that's with James Hibbard, and Hibbard's obviously had a regular contact with George as an interviewer for and so on. So George opened up and gave some really interesting stuff about all the things that was going on in the background with House of the Dragon and so on.
That was very surprising that his
Yeah.
well, I don't blame him because and you know this, we talked about this last time. He went to a lot of cons in 2025, a lot of them. And in almost every single appearance, people reached out to me and they told me like, "Yeah, I went and here's what George talked about." In almost every single one, he talked about how they always fucking change book to show. They always fuck with the adaptation and try to make it their own. That was the one thing he said every single time without fail. Almost every single time. So
yeah, it's unfortunate that one. I talked to Condal on occasion. I like him. He's a very personable guy. He's a very, and like, his pop stuff is really cool. I'm a nerd for that kind of thing.
You talked to Ryan Condal on occasion.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, email back and forth and so on. Nice guy, and a genuine fan. Like, let me say this: he read those books long before Game of Thrones, long before, not long before Game of Thrones, I think, but a long time ago. Anyways, we'll put it that way. He has actually genuinely read them and he knows them very well. That said, he is a professional first. He's a showrunner and he works for HBO. HBO is his boss, not George, and I think that has sort of led to a lot of a conflict. I think George, George was instrumental in getting him that job, and I think there is a question of like what does someone owe George when they have that relationship, and what has to fall by the wayside when push comes to shove between their professional judgment, their personal interests, their judgment of what their bosses want versus what it's a complicated situation. I don't think anyone's going to be really happy with it, how it turned out. I know George certainly isn't. It sounds like HBO isn't entirely happy. But, another thing is I think the fact that Night of the Seven Kingdoms is a success is kind of, again, just underscoring that listening to George matters. It actually, he has a nose for what is the stuff that fans want and how they want it. It's House of the Dragon is one of the biggest shows HBO Max has ever had. It's not as big as Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones was a once in a generation kind of huge hit. But it's very big, and I think that so it'll be interesting to see what future projects come out, and how the relationship goes forward between HBO and George. I think especially if Paramount on board, I think they want to be in a George R.R. Martin business, so we'll see what that means for the future.